Hey guys, I'm Chris Buck and a very warm welcome to Friday Fretworks. And on this week's episode, I'm taking a closer look at a guitar that arguably not many people associate with John Lennon, and that is his Gibson Les Paul Jr. Now, as I said, if you're familiar with John Lennon, and you struggle to find anyone who isn't to some degree, it's not necessarily a guitar that you think of him having played. Maybe it's a Rickenbacker 325, or maybe it's a Gibson J160 acoustic, or even an Epiphone Casino. Les Paul Jr. doesn't necessarily factor that highly on the list of guitars that he is famous for having played. However, if you're a fan of his post-Beatles material, you may well know that in 1972 it was a Les Paul Jr. that John leaned on very heavily for live performances. Now, our best guess is that John bought this guitar in 1971. Now, it started life as a 1956 Les Paul Jr., and he actually bought the guitar initially intended as a birthday present for his son Julian. However, he must have liked the guitar because he decided to keep it, later buying Julian a Les Paul, and then proceeded to have work done on the guitar by renowned New York luthier even, Frank DiMarino. For some unknown reason, I now proceed to call Ron DiMarino Frank DiMarino for the rest of this video. Sorry, Ron. Now, the first work to be undertaken on this guitar was Frank adding a neck pickup. Now, famously, John took the guitar to Frank and asked for a Humperdinck pickup to be fitted. Frank interpreted this as John as not really knowing much about electric guitars. However, it's more likely, as any John Lennon fan will know, he was a big fan of wordplay, and obviously Engelbert Humperdinck famously kept the Beatles off the top spot of the charts with their dual A-side of Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields with his track Release Me. So it's probably more likely that it was a bit of wordplay. So instead of adding a Humperdinck pickup, for some reason Frank DiMarino added a Charlie Christian pickup into the neck. However, John liked the sound, and in early 1972 you can see a live TV performance, I should say, on the Mike Douglas show of Chuck Berry and John Lennon performing Johnny B. Good, in which you can see the Charlie Christian pickup having been added. And importantly, you can see the original sunburst finish and the original wrap over tailpiece. However, it wasn't long until the guitar was back with Frank DiMarino to have the original sunburst finish removed, something John was very accustomed to doing, having done that with his original Rickenbacker, his Epiphone Casino, and his J160 acoustic for the bed-in. And also have a wrap over bridge removed and a stop bar tailpiece and two pneumatic bridge added. And it's in this guise the guitar is most kind of visibly seen and most famous for, I guess, in a live performance in 1972 at Madison Square Gardens, the charity gig that John did. The final bit of work that was done on this guitar was again sometime late in 1972 when the guitar went back to Frank DiMarino to have a cherry stain added to the wood. Now, it's in this guise that the guitar has been recreated in by Gibson back in 2007 in very small numbers. I think 300 were made. I'm very lucky today to have my hands on number 277. A good friend has loaned me for the purposes of this video to take a look at it and try and see how well Gibson recreated this rather famous, iconic guitar. Now, the first thing I noticed about this guitar is the level of detail and attention to detail, I should say, that Gibson have gone to recreate not only the specs of this guitar, but every little mark and ding that John put on it in his time of using it. Now, I would say that the Relican does seem a little heavy-handed here and there, but again, that may be a totally unfounded criticism because it is hard to come by high-resolution photos of the original guitar. It's on display at an exhibition in Japan, and as such, it's hard to really say whether the Relican is that accurate or not. Now, in regard to the specs of the guitar, they've really nailed this, and in terms of playability and build quality, really is second to none. It plays beautifully, it sounds fantastic. Really surprised, actually. I'd never played a Charlie Christian pickup before, but it sounds fantastic in isolation and makes for a really unique combination with, obviously, the P90 in the bridge position. Now, the one area it does seem where Gibson have let themselves down very slightly is the finish of this guitar. Now, the original, from the photos that I have seen, obviously the performances John did with it, as well as the description of the work undertaken by Frank DiMarino, all of which suggest the guitar was finished to a matte finish. But obviously Gibson's recreation, for whatever reason, has been done to a very shiny gloss finish, I assume poly. So it's hard to see why they would go to all the effort and extent of recreating every little ding and mark and cigarette burn and obviously the specs, and then finish the guitar in something that isn't truly original. It's hard to say whether that is truly accurate. Again, it's hard to see high-resolution photos of this guitar, but everything I've read would imply that that isn't necessarily all that accurate. But apart from that, I would say everything else on this guitar has been done to an incredibly high standard. And again, it's testament to the fact that even during a period when, arguably, depending on what you read online, Gibson weren't necessarily at their best, they were still capable of creating some truly beautiful instruments. Obviously, only 300 of these were ever made, so they're fairly hard to come by. But if you do ever get a chance to try or buy one, I would definitely recommend checking it out because, as I said, it is a really cool recreation of a very small but important part of John's history. Now I'm going to play you out now with a little bit of Come Together. As ever, thank you very much for watching. I've been Chris Buck. This has been Friday Fretworks. Please do subscribe and hit the bell icon if you haven't already. And I shall be back next week for another episode. Cheers, guys. Take care. See you soon.